Todd Siel, I'm the general manager at the Louisville Republican NRD. I'm going to switch to the map, show you what constitutes the Louisville Republican NRD. All of these three counties, Furnace, Harlan, and Franklin County, 3/4 of Webster County, and there's 5 townships in Knuckles County. I appreciate Don Matson, what he had to say earlier about the NRD system. Probably my first water conference I attended was, it was here in Nebraska, but it was a professor from Colorado State who I had a hard time understanding where he was going with his presentation. And about halfway through, I realized what he was talking about was not the conservation of that natural resource in the Republican River Basin in Colorado, but how many years they had left of pumping before the aquifer there was going to get to a point where he would no longer be able to irrigate. Sorry. Here in Nebraska, I know the NRD system is unique, and most of you here already are aware of it. I believe here in the Louisville Republican, I do not have slides today that talk about groundwater levels, but for the most part, throughout the entire district, we've actually seen groundwater level that has increased, especially since 2005. We used as a baseline 2005. Water pumping since that time, actually I've got some numbers here going all the way back to 2003 to reflect where we've been. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to that slide. I put a table we already have together running all the way through 2020. You'll notice 2019 is 3.73 acre inches. The lowest we've seen since meters have been put on. Not a big surprise. This past year in 2020, yes, we saw twice as much usage, all the way up to over 8 acre inches. If you look back, starting all the way over here, 2003, over 13 inches, and the trend in the last 2 to 3 years before 2020, you can see usage was way down compared to the past. I grew up in the Republican River Basin. I still have 2 brothers that farm there. I know going back into the 1970s, 1980s, it was pretty common that we would be irrigating with approximately 20 acre inches a year. Nobody likes to be regulated. No one likes it when allocations are placed upon you that you don't have a choice in the matter. But we have shown, not just the rest of the country, but the world, when you've got 8 different states that cover a portion of the High Plains Aquifer, what Nebraska is doing compared to other states. Not just in the Louisville Republican NRD, but across much of the state where we've seen sustained groundwater levels. I wrote this down. Every year we look at it from a county perspective. It's very interesting to me. You would think across the state of Nebraska, of course, the further you go west, the less average yearly precipitation you see. You would think that, well, Furnace County, you're going to see the highest usage. You get the least amount of rain, maybe 22 inches on average, all the way over to Superior, where we're seeing 26 inches approximately as far as average precipitation. Not always the case. To 2019 actually was the case. These counties are arranged from west to east. You do see what you would see a consistent pattern where the most usage is to the west, least in the east. Flipping back to this past year, this actually represents more of what you would see across our district. Very interesting that you'll see Harlan County ever since 2005, from 2005 to 2020, actually had much, or not much, but slightly higher usage than what you saw even in Furnace County. It's been referred to the Little Republican NRD, the Republican Basin in general, which constitutes also a part of Tri-Basin, Middle Republican, and Upper Republican NRDs, being the most regulated river basin in the world. And that's not my statement, but you can see here, there's usually three questions that I get most often. Number one is, are we pumping out of Import, the well field we have, our augmentation project along with 3 other NRDs? I get that question a lot. Where does the Platte River Diversion Project stand, the PRD project of ours? And also, then questions turn to allocation. Is there a possibility we'll ever see those allocations change? Sure, there's a possibility. This is the allocations we've had actually since 2008. So going on 13 years now, 45 inches over a 5-year period, base allocation of 9 inches per year. With the wet conditions we saw in 2008, 2018, 2019, our 5-year allocation period, we are in year 4 right now. So it's 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. We have right now, as of the end of 2020, over 96% of our irrigators have 27 acre inches of water or more to carry them through the last 2 years. We do allow 9 inches max to be carried over into the following allocation period, but on average, again, if they were to use 9 inches this year, 9 inches next year, would still have a full 9-inch carryover going into 2023. We are not in a compact haul year. We were not in 2020, and in this year, 2021, the Republican River Compact, it is not a compact haul year. There is no hard cap on what you can pump groundwater-wise in the Little Republican. And that question can get confusing for people. It's, so I can pump whatever I want with no penalty. Yes, but you have to stay within your overall allocation, you know, the total amount of volume of water you do have remaining for these 2-year periods too. Pooling is allowed, the second from the bottom line here, where people can take the acres they have, pool them together, and average that out. Some irrigation districts in RDs do not allow that pooling, or look at that in a different way. And the last thing here, I get this question often as well: how are the allocations affected by surface water use? Any of the acres that are in the Lower Republican NRD, where you have both access to surface water, either French and Cambridge Irrigation District or Nebraska Bostwick, in the lower reaches of the basin, are not affected by surface water use. You may use your groundwater allocation that is separate from the surface water allocation. We do not have subbasins. There are no designated groundwater management areas. We do have a rapid response area allocation, or would have an allocation that the board has that right to implement allocations that are specific to the rapid response area. Has that happened? No, has not happened. And yes, there are penalties for exceeding allocations. Before we get to any questions, I do want to talk about a couple other things. I mentioned INCORP briefly. It's our Nebraska Cooperative Platte Republican Enhancement Project. That has not pumped for the Republican Riverside since February of 2017. A lot of people wonder, is it pumping this year, is it not? Is that project still active? Yes. The Twin Platte NRD, one of the 4 NRDs involved with the project, they're able to pump their portion of that water into the Platte, you know, for their obligations they have through the PRIP program. Also, something else that Tom Riley talked about, he mentioned, looking forward. You know, right now, water conditions are pretty good in the Lower Republican NRD, not only with groundwater, groundwater quantity and allocations and where our producers stand with that, but also surface water. I know Morgan's going to talk about that with the Bureau. Harlan County is I believe approximately 2 feet below its pool level, but conditions for this year are pretty good. But right now is exactly when we should be looking forward and those particular projects that are going to help us out if we would have an extreme drought period. One thing we do just recently have 2 different grants we received from the NRCS, the WFPO grants, watershed and flood protection operations. Both of those grants are significant in that we're going to be looking at water storage facilities possibly throughout the district. In particular, the 2 grants we received were for 2 different watersheds. One is Thompson Creek, which is in Franklin County, eastern Franklin County, and also Turkey Creek. And yes, there's about 27 Turkey Creeks across the state of Nebraska. This is the Turkey Creek that's out in the western part of our district. I might even flip back to that and see. And it also extends up into Tri-Basin's district. Turkey Creek actually comes in approximately between Oxford and Edison over here in the, you'll see it in Furnace County. I'll stop with that, and I know Charles Workman's ready to get out here pretty quick, but are there any questions? Yes, actually, we've seen rises across much of the district. There is a few areas, especially in the northern, we're talking northern Franklin County and then northern Webster County, where there's a little bit more of an issue with decline. But across most of the district, we've actually seen a rise in our groundwater levels.
He was asking about
the Incord. Yes, there was a cone of depression there. We did pump for 4 straight years there, starting in 2013, ending in February of 2017. We've seen those groundwater levels come back up. The last time I had heard, which has been a few months ago now, 16 and 20 some feet on a few of those wells.
Is that pulling water from outside of the Incord area?
I'm sorry?
To make itself settle at that height, is it pulling water from outside of the boundary of the Incord?
Oh, I would imagine that we do have a protection area there with the amount of property that's owned there. But yes, you would see an effect, a cone effect of that. But there has been not an issue, especially since we haven't been pumping it that hard for 3 or 4 years now. We've seen those raises in the groundwater levels. But yes, that's a concern that we do monitor and make sure that we're keeping track of that, so that we aren't affecting the neighbors too much.
Other questions for Todd? Any online questions? Nope. Okay, thank you very much, Todd.